What's happening, people? We're back again, the TBH podcast. You're here with Fred Smiley. You know how it is.
What's going on, people? It's your boy Michael.
Yes, people, it's Shaq, aka Django Jr. We got one chain, but we're still unchained. What do you mean, bro? Yo, we're in the house, bro. What we saying? We need to have a name. We need a name for our subscribers. We need like a name. But I don't want it to be like I don't want it to be like a cool thing like Believers or like anything like that. Like work off. I want it to be like a name, just like a name that you wouldn't even give to people you like, but like it's just as a funny thing. Like maybe like
you know what, man?
Knit bags. I don't know. What are you saying to you knit bags out there?
What's going on?
Oh,
Yo,
man.
how's everyone feeling? Everyone good? Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's just been. It was my birthday, obviously.
Oh yeah, wait, hold on.
Big up.
If you don't put in the comments, happy birthday, Smiley, you're a waste man. It's as simple as that.
Why, lad?
Feeling brand new hair as well. Like, come on.
Isn't it?
What is this?
New hair,
this?
new year.
That's
New
different.
Wi-Fi, new signal, new
New
connection.
Wi-Fi, new signal.
And it upgraded.
No more glitching, bro.
Exactly. How's your week been, guys?
Bro, I've just been trying to do tax this whole time, week. It's mad jarring. I can't stand it. There's nothing worse. The worst part of my year is realizing that you have to get your tax sorting out your tax.
That's really long.
For my accountants, they want it end of the month, and I went, "Oh yeah, I forgot you wanted it then." And then I looked at the week at the calendar. I went, "Oh, I better hurry up."
You ain't got long, yeah.
It's long, but I get it done.
Tax is long, but I'm lucky. One of my boys is an accountant, innit? And he helps me out with my things, innit? So I'm smiling with that kind of thing there. But the week's been calm. It was my boy's flipping birthday the other day. Had a little barbecue yesterday and that. It was a turn up. It was, you know them ones, where you're thinking it's going to be like, what, 5 men? And it was, and initially the plan was meant to be 5 men. In fact, we were actually complaining, thinking, right, it's going to be bare food, too much food. But come 6:30, we're getting there now, flipping, bro, there's just enough heads. It turned into an actual motive, like an actual shrimps, innit? So I'm like, all right, I'll have some of that. Me have some of that. Before I knew it, I sent you man the video, but I was
Michael was away, people. Michael was away.
He was sleeping. Man was sleeping with his eyes closed, having a conversation. He was not here. Michael was above his body, watching himself do shit.
Oh,
he really was.
Oh gosh.
We said we're gonna start this at 4. Michael said, "It's cool. Let's do it at 7." You weren't listening.
Yeah, I forgot he said that. We're like, it's 4K. Yeah, man, I could do 7.
Yeah, 7.
It's not even like you have to scroll up to read it.
Don't
again.
watch,
man's message after.
Man's still here.
You're back.
But don't watch, man's back. Yeah,
he's back.
Cool. Yeah, I'm here, professional, feeling good,
as good as you can be. So what are we talking about today? What's on the menu?
Relationships.
Ooh,
do you know what? That for me, that's like the flipping entree. That's just part of the conversation. What I'm looking forward to talking about is the OnlyFans section.
OnlyFans.
This is about to be hilarious, bro. Oh my days. Yeah, come. Let's get started. I'm ready.
I want to ask you, man. Yeah, you can both tell me individually. What is your definition of a healthy relationship?
For me, I think it's two people who are able to fully be themselves with good understanding of each other and just an openness and I think for me, I think a relationship, the person you're with should always be like give you some aspect of peace. Of course, in relationships there are arguments and there are bickers and stuff, but really what you want out of a relationship is to be with your best mate, really, so that there's not and like, of course, sometimes people's personalities are work in a way that they will clash because that's just the way they are. But I think as long as the love is there always, and it's just and you're real and able to communicate openly without fear of judgment or backlash, I think that is maybe it's not what a healthy relationship, but it's a good foundation. I think just complete transparency. I think, and I think it's difficult to get into that if it doesn't start off like that.
Nice.
Well said, bro. Well, initially when you asked me, Man said, "What's the definition of a healthy relationship?" I thought like, okay, cool. Henri and Bergkamp. I thought, Mourinho and Drogba. I don't know why my head went to. I don't know why my head went to football. I don't know why.
Healthy relationship.
The Henri and Bergkamp. But fully going on from what Shaq said, man. All of that stuff. I mean, two people that can I think communication is really important. I think freedom, even though I've always been a big believer of like, even though you're probably with someone or you're in a relationship or whatever the hell you want to call it, entanglement or a throuple or whatever the hell you want to call it, just being able to be yourself in it. Because I feel like a lot of people get into relationships and they feel like they can no longer be who they were prior to that. Do you know what I mean? Being themselves. And I feel like it's got to be two people that are so comfortable within themselves that they bounce off each other and make each other work better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's difficult. It's really not easy, bruv. And obviously it goes to see there's so many relationships that don't work well, or people go in and out of relationships to try and figure that kind of thing out. I'm not really like, I'm not going to judge anybody on that kind of thing. Because like I said, it's really hard, isn't it? And it takes years and years of figuring yourself out. But I don't feel like anyone's really figured themselves out too tough, especially not at my age. I mean, it's different for everyone. But yeah, to go back to answering your question, I think it's important to be able to communicate and to have so much like, to be comfortable with yourself before meeting someone, in it. Because then people like, you hear about them toxic relationships that people start changing and they stop talking to their friends, and then it becomes toxic and abusive and blah, 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 blah. Whereas if you're like kind of just so solid within yourself and who you are, and then take that energy into meeting someone else, and you're open and accepting to understanding who they are, and then that, like Shaq said, if it's your best friend, that would be the best case scenario, because you guys just get along anyway, and then from then on it kind of blossoms and becomes something lovely, innit? Do you know what I mean?
I think also the ability to compromise with pretty much everything except, I think, your own personality. I don't think you should ever compromise who you are as a person to fit a relationship. I just don't think. I think if someone's not able to accept you for who you are from when they met you, and like certain things that you do they don't like and they want to change it, I think that's where you can kind of end up starting that. Hey, look at man with emojis and everything.
How do you do that?
Hey, man's upgraded. Oh, I see it. Reactions. Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah, bro. Run it.
Oh my days. Okay.
Can't
do the black hand though. Can't do the black hand.
I will get black hand. How do I get black hand?
You got a good reaction. I think. How did I do it that time?
Nah, we'll fix it later.
We'll fix that. Look, I've got all this.
Let me let people know, yeah.
Hey, sorry, I distracted you.
Listen, emoji people, black hands matter. And if you're if you're black. I don't see no white people doing no black hands and black this, and that don't make sense to me. Do what looks like you. That's why they've given you 75 different versions of the same blood clot emoji, so you can find yourself.
I'm dead.
No, but you know what? Going back off that, I think it's knowing each other's love language. If you know your girl likes flowers, you know, if you know your man likes, you know, a couple PS4 games now and again. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's love language is different.
Are you hitting, bro? Are you hinting? You know your.
No, I'm not hitting, bro.
That man's birthday's not coming up, and he's going on. He's getting.
I'm not hitting. You know what? I got The Last of Us. I just got The Last of Us too, so I'm not complaining. You know, got some new preps as well, bro. I can't complain. But yeah, this love language is important, and like you said, what Michael said, having time on your own before you go into a new relationship, or you know, just making sure you're healed. Work on yourself before you get into another relationship. A lot of people jump from one relationship to another. They didn't heal, and then they get into another relationship.
Yeah.
And then they're bringing them insecurities into a new one. That's not on. Like, you know what I mean? You have to really heal on your own before you get into a new one. And I think it's just about, like I said, it's not a dictatorship. You've got to, like you said, be yourself, and just be open. You don't need to ask permission when you're doing something, but as what Shaq said as well, you have to be considerate as well of people's feelings. That's what I think a healthy relationship is, isn't it?
And it's so funny. We can all just sit here and say these things, so blasé and off of our chest, but in the real life, it's never easy.
It's never easy, bro. It's never easy like Trust me, I've been through the wars of relationship.
For example, being in that kind of phase, like you said, of healing yourself. Like I remember being in phases where I'm like, look, you know what? Man's just gonna focus on man, do me, whatever, not and in the minute you do decide to do that, it's the minute you bump into someone, you're like, oh rah, we're starting to spark still.
Literally.
Starting to connect still. But man's not finished working on me yet, but I'm not trying to let that one go as well, do you know what I mean? So it's a sticky one, but you gotta find the balance, innit?
Yeah, healthy balance, 100%. going off that, obviously, like with relationships, what is a no-no in a relationship for you guys? What is like there's no, like, what's a no-no?
What level are we talking about? Are we talking like aesthetically or personality wise or just in general? Like
In terms of what you won't accept in a relationship, you know, some people's like obviously cheating, all that stuff. But I mean, like, apart from the obvious one, what is your like turn-offs in a relationship?
I can't stand people who don't know how to talk to adults or parents. Like just a general, just bottom line, you have to be respectful. I could, like, even if I said hypothetically, I don't really like my dad too much, and you met my dad, you have to still come with an energy of like,
of course,
of a respect thing. I know there's a lot of people that they're not really on that, but you know, those ones you stay away from. But yeah, I think it's for me, it's a respect thing. I've kind of learned as I've got older and like little kind of like, I would never say like, I'm probably about to piss off bare people if they watch this exes, but like, I'd never say that I was in a proper relationship till maybe 17. I think I was like my first proper relationship. It lasted for like nearly a year or whatever. And really, I think what I found now in the relationship I'm in now, like my girlfriend, Emma, I found that it's about lived experience as well, and just like how you're not going to understand me unless you've lived at least some of what I've lived and understand, like, do you know what I mean? Like with all my girlfriends before, they just like kind of happened to be white. I grew up in a very white area, not just in Oxford, but I grew up in theatre. So it was a lot of middle class, upper middle class, upper class people there as well. So you kind of end up around these sort of people, you end up dating these people, but like,
that's it.
When you look at it, I remember dating a girl who was so right wing at the time. Like, remember when UKIP popped off? She's talking about voting for UKIP, bro.
The man was there.
So, and I was there, sat there, like, I don't agree, but like, it's all right. I don't have to agree, but like, really, if I was the age I am now, and I'm hearing a girl say this to me, I'm at least challenging her on it. I've not even said, I've just gone, I don't care about politics. It is what it is. Yeah. But really, like, so yeah, I think it's really important to not important, but I think for me personally, I've learned that it helps to be with someone that kind of understands your lived experiences. My girlfriend's mixed race, her dad's Jamaican. There's a lot of cultural stuff that she just gets without me. It's not even like spoken word. It's just shit that happens that we just both understand because we're both from that similar, not even all the way similar, but it's just enough for us to kind of click and understand and be able to relate about things. So yeah, I think that it does help.
To answer your question, Fred, what my biggest turn off in that? I don't want to sound like I'm just agreeing with Shaq all the time, but I think manners is a massive thing, you know. Like, I don't even, like, if you could be the blingest, naras, boomest thing in the whole wide world, yeah, but if you don't even say, like, please and thank you, and like Shaq said, you don't know how to talk to parents, or you don't know how to conduct yourself around particular people, and you're just, you're your full outward persona isn't, like, correct. So I don't know, man. Them things there just can't run for me. I'm like, come on, like, I just think be polite. Do you mean just be polite?
So it's also it's them girls who date like roadman and they just run them out to anyone. They'll just run them out to anyone. Those people, I think, even if I was a road person myself, I wouldn't want to be looking for a girl like that, because that just means that, like, oh yeah, my man gets into trouble, so I can just invite it whenever I want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like them people that run up their mouth, because they ain't going to swing. When it comes down to it, they ain't going to swing. They'll be running up their mouth the next man. Next thing you know, you're up against 5 men on your own. Like,
this will be a woman, a gal will chat shit to your girl, and you go over to say, like, to calm it down. She'll go get her man. And then she's expecting this man that don't know me and I don't know him to kick off. Do you know what I mean? This is just a hypothetical. This has never, like, truly happened to me in my life, but I've seen it happen bare. When the guys that put him in the situation, they're like, well, I'm not fighting. It's either they're not going to fight and then they both get shit for not backing their girl. Oh, you're pussy. Or they do fight and then one of them ends up in big trouble. And then where's my girl when my man's in prison for assault?
Bro, that's like, have you man heard of the term honey trapping?
Yes.
Honey trapping, yeah.
Oh my days, bro. What you just said reminded me. So there's a film out that John Boyega actually starred in some time ago called My Murder, based in
That's
South
based on
London, I
true.
believe.
That's a true story.
Yeah, true story,
That's
isn't it?
Sad.
Wasn't his name Shaq as well? The character's
Yeah,
name was
His name was
Shaq.
Shaq.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Shaq. Yeah,
Bro,
there you go.
let me tell you a quick story about that show, bro. Look, that came out back in BBM times. Remember BlackBerry Messenger?
Carlos Townsend. Yeah.
BBM,
Do you remember back in BBM times, bro? So I'm sat, was I watching it? I think I watched on iPlayer like afterwards. But I'm sat on BBM looking through messages. All these statuses like, oh no, Shaq. Oh God. Oh, poor Shaq. And I was like, so I had to check myself because I was like, am I in hospital, bro? Am I in a coma? I was so scared.
Oh my.
But then, it ended up being that guy's what's
so
his name?
sad, man. That's a sad story.
Carlos Townsend, isn't it?
Yeah, R.I.P.
For anyone watching who doesn't know about that, I don't want to spoil it too much in case you do want to go see it. But it's called My Murder. I'm sure you can find it on like BBC or YouTube or something like that. But it's one of John Boyega's earliest projects. And honey trapping, the term honey trapping, So it's where, for example, there's beef between one brother and another brother. There's some sort of like things going on issue between two guys, and then one of the guys gets this really attractive girl. He either pays her, or he might know her from like the block or like their family or whatever not. But gets this really attractive girl to essentially move to the guy they've got problems with. You know what I mean? So my man's just popping on the road, see this light come like, oh, what are you saying? And he's like, oh, what me? What, this light is chatting to me? Oh, okay, cool. He's all feeling himself now. They will go out on 2 little dates and that, whatever not. She's like, yeah, come back to my crib. You're going to get there tonight. You know what I'm saying? So imagine that he's come back to the crib now, and before you know it, there's a bagger man there waiting for him, trying to stab him up and whatever not, and that kind of thing. And that just reminded me of what you were saying about the girl that run them out too much for beef and that, because honey trapping is a real thing. It's a very real thing, and I feel like you got to be careful, man. Then to be careful.
The My Murder thing was a bit different to that because they actually just met.
Yeah, they met.
They were just like dating. They were just like, she obviously was on and off with this guy. Obviously, he was about that real life. This guy, whereas obviously the Shaq guy wasn't. He was just a normal guy.
He was a calm brother.
He was a calm guy. So he obviously was dating this girl. Obviously, then this girl now obviously goes back to the guy. She was obviously she was scared of this guy. This guy's a known guy. She was scared of him, and he's gone back now. Obviously, he's seen messages on her phone, so she was kind of playing a field, like when she was with this guy, and then he obviously sees messages, and he forced the girl to set the guy up. When it wasn't even the guy's fault, because he had no idea.
In that context, obviously that's what actually happened. But I don't know, man. I just feel like
she did trap him though. That was a trap. Obviously, she did. Trap him.
That film, but made me touch me here. I love John Boyega regardless, innit? So regardless of the storyline, I'm thinking, man, like John, no way.
No way.
That was funny.
It's sad, but relationships are a mad thing. But what Shaq said about the whole dating people, like, with musical theatre, and just like he said, I moved from East London from like when I was like 14, so I went to a predominantly white school. I was the only black boy in my year. And obviously, all you see is like white people. So obviously, I started dating like quite a few white girls at a time. I said at a time, not like at the same time. But what I mean is like later on in life.
All the gal in Essex, just knew you were not the only one, like Sam Smith said.
Well, no, do you know what I mean? But anyway, I remember dating this girl, and then she said to me, "You're on my to-do list." That was the first thing she said to me. And me stupidly just thought, obviously I want her to do this. She's obviously liked man for a while, but later on I found that she ain't never been with a black dude before. So, this whole fetish thing, innit? It was to tick it off the bucket list. And that was the most toxic relationship. But like I said, back then I was none the wiser. Do you know what I mean? When I think about it now, do you know what I mean? It's important you gotta have someone that has the same values. That's why it's so important to have someone with the same values and stuff. Not even
like not even just make sure I was saying I just don't want it. I think racially date whoever you want, but it's it's the learned experience, and your culture doesn't always necessarily mean black or white or Asian or it's just sometimes people grow up a certain way, and like because my girlfriend grew up with a Jamaican dad, and he has Jamaican values. He grew up in a completely Jamaican household, so that is just what it is. Like there are loads of white families that are very, very strict and very not saying that like Jamaicans are particularly mad strict. I know that like there are stories everywhere, but it just depends on how you grew up, and it's just what you were expected to do as you were growing up versus what someone else was expected to do as growing up, and that will shape how you are as a person. There are little things now that I know that I have friends that would do without even thinking. They just go and do it. But me, the way I grew up, I see something like that, I go, there's no way. There's no way. Like, it's just about how you grew as people.
But yeah, going back to what you're saying, Fred, about school and that, like, so my school, well, when I was born in North London, I moved to Milton Keynes around about 8, 9-ish. So that's when I started going into, like, you know, secondary school and whatnot, whatever. And my school was proper multicultural, to be fair. My primary school wasn't. My first school was what, year 3, 4? What year you in, like 8 or 9? Like 4, 5?
What, in year 8 or 9? Or
no, when you're 8 or 9 years old, what year?
In year 4.
Year 4, something like that. But
year 4, 8 or 9.
Yeah. The first school I got to in MK, me and my sister were the only black people in that school. And when I went to secondary school, it was lit. There was like bare black people, like bare Malis, bare Africans, bare Yardis, bare white people, bare Polish people. And yeah, that was lit. So in terms of like being around only white guys and that, it wasn't really like that's just all my school was around, and that there was loads of different kind of girls and that around. I used to just chat to anyone that I thought was buff, really. But you see me, But you see me, I was the chubby you growing up. I was the chubby you. So you see me, I was just like, oh, you're very cute, you know, cheeks and that. I was all there looking like Cleveland Brown or whatever, not brother Corey in the house and that. But anyway, sorry, the glow up soon come. But anyway, yeah, and I got into like what? Year 10, 11, sixth form in that times. It was like a majority like white girls and stuff that man would probably get chatting to and like whatever, whatnot. Just through like social groups and stuff. And then I went to like theatre groups and stuff, whatever. And yeah, that's that really.
Yeah, I was like you said, it's all about value. Like, you know, it's all about values. Like, I will date anyone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care as long as we've got the same values and stuff. Especially on the nowadays, like, you've got the same values and stuff. Then it's cool. But if you haven't, then keep it stepping. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the point. Yeah, like I grew up. I think because I grew up around people that weren't really similar to me by like 2 or 3. Like my oldest friend, like he's from like the other estate in Oxford. Basically, it's basically 2. And so like we understand each other a lot more, and then you kind of understand that like with girls and stuff. I really didn't realize until I'm this age now, like how little I had in common with the girls that I was trying to chirps anyway at the time. Like there's no like kind of like there's no rapport really. We're just in the same situation as each other.
It's just pure attraction.
Yeah, kind of. And like you said, you were chubby. I was skinny. Like I was skinny. Like I'd say I'm still skinny now. I'm still suffering from the growing up as a skinny.
Hold on 1 second.
Man.
1 second. Sorry. Oh my God. Yes, I'm filming. For God's sake.
Man, still got this bar July, bro.
Man had to suppress the volume.
Guys, 1 second. Yeah, I just need to 1 second. Sorry, guys, we're gonna have to pause this thing, man.
I was just saying that like I was so aware of. Well, actually, so unaware of the social divide between myself and a lot of the people that I was around, bar a few. Like my mate Harry lived in Blackbird Leys, which is like the other big estate in Oxford. There's Barton and Blackbird Leys and Greater Leys, but it's Blackbird Leys. Don't at me, Oxford. And I think it took me to kind of even get out of the drama school situation to understand that, like, the people I'm actually going to click with well, who are going to understand when I'm like being flirty and being funny, are the people who grew up the kind of same way I did, the girls from the working class, the kind of lower middle class people that like I was used to kind of going to school with, and like I just understood that like the values and the thought process towards things were just like that's where it kind of works better for me. Not to say that I would never date a girl who's middle class, but I've got a girl now. I'm looking at this is me done. So I would just say what I want to say and walk off. Like, it is what it is.
You know what? It's so funny. It's so funny because like flipping I was just about to say something, flipping up. Train of thought done. Yeah, but the whole middle class thing and all that kind of thing. It's just like, because you do see them stories where it does happen, and like, you know, people meet from different places. And I was watching something recently on BBC News about Black and Indian relationships, how like Black people aren't really welcomed too tough in like the Indian communities, in it. So when people get together, people had their relationships for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, get married on the low and that, and it's all a bit crazy. So I feel like there are so many different kind of what's the word? Variables
Culture.
in terms of
variables and
different things that come into it. Do you know what I mean? Not
We're
just
at the
class
bottom.
as well,
We're
like,
at the bottom. Black people at the bottom.
you know
Asian
what?
community.
You know
The
what?
darker skin you are, forget about it. As a black
Here's
person.
a question. Here's a question. Do you man think you should? No. Okay, no. I'll ask the question anyway. What do you man think? Yeah. Do you think we should marry within our own race? For example, in like, if you look at the Chinese community, for example, many of those people marry within their own race. Not all of them, but many of them do. Same with the Indian community. A lot of them marry within their own community. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, you get the couples that are not, I mean, same race and same kind of thing. I feel like with the Black community, I feel like we are the most kind of expanded. I feel like we kind of everywhere.
Well, I think it's because we've been put everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you get put in the situation where, like, there are some people who, like, I think, who was watching the other day? What's his name from Love Island? Jordan Hames, is it? I don't know his surname.
Hames, one of them.
He was saying that he grew up in North Manchester and he was the only Black person growing up at school until he went to play football and found himself in South Manchester where the Black people were. He's like, even his, like he didn't grow up with his dad particularly at the beginning of his, like, his childhood. So he was just with it by himself. So I get it's all about circumstance, I think. And I think, like, when you're surrounded by something and everyone around you is saying that this is what looks good, like the blonde-haired girl with the blue eyes, she's the pretty one, then your mind you just kind of you're going with the crowd. It's completely it's within our animal instinct to kind of go with society and whatever society is telling you. We're animals that are social. So, like, regardless of, like, maybe you should be going out with, whether you should or shouldn't, it's just about circumstance, isn't it, really? Like, and I don't think, and to be honest, I don't think I'd ever say, like, I have to marry a Black woman. I just found as I got older that I was like, the person I'm probably going to end up with the rest of my life is probably going to end up being Black or mixed race, just based off of a certain values that I reckon that we will both end up sharing. That might not necessarily be the case with a white person. You just know, in terms of ratio and majority, it is what it is.
Yeah, because with white people, I'm not talking for everyone, but with, especially in my experience, if any white guy I've dated, at least one family member or two has been racist. That's facts. Yeah. So you're gonna have to deal with that. Not every single one, but from my experience, that's what I faced. So for me, I would date whoever, but obviously my partner now is Black. So for me, Caribbean. So for me, they don't necessarily have to, like, be Nigerian, whatever. As long as they're cultured, as long as they are cultured and they're woke, whatever race they are, because there are some Black people out there. But it's true, woke. There are some Black people out there, best believe it or not, they don't want to be this. They don't want to be this tone because of what their world's telling them to be. Some people don't really like the skin. So as long as they're woke and they have the same values as me, I don't really care.
I'm just gonna say,
I'm a big older, that's what happens.
I'm a big advocate for kind of like, you do you, and I feel like in terms of marrying to the same race, and I don't like I don't think there's any rules really. I just feel like whoever God puts for you, like that. It could be anybody from anywhere to any town to any race to any culture to any class, whatever happens in it. But similar to Shaq, bruv, for me, like, it goes down to something as little as food, innit? And obviously, I know that people can learn to make food, but I remember my mum and dad saying, like, who's gonna make you pounded jam when you're hungry, and that who's gonna make you all the Nigerian food and that. And I was thinking, true say, Mumsy, actually, now you mentioned that, am I gonna want that, like
on a regular degular.
The regular degular, bruv. Not all the carbonara, lasagna, them things there.
I said carbonara.
No, but I love that. I love
carbonara.
That's the littest pasta, bruv. You don't like carbonara?
I don't like carbonara. Creamy pasta, nah.
Nah,
I love them dishes there, but my mum, my mum spoke to me about them kind of things there. My family is very kind of clear about like their opinions and that kind of thing. But like you said, Fred, when I got older, kind of thing, like the girl that I'm seeing now, is obviously black as well, African, and it's like, yeah, man, like it kind of makes sense. Like Shaq's about cultural upbringing, down to food, down to banter, down to
exactly. It's so much deeper than just like, oh, I understand this, you don't. Like, as you say, that's like food as well. Like, I can't imagine a life where I'm looking and I think, like, you know, God forbid, it's all going to happen at one point. Like, if when my mom's not around anymore and I've no grandparents anymore, so what? The food just stops there. Not obviously that's not all that our grandparents good for, but that's why my head goes. It's like, right, one day I might never see like.
I can't stop again.
Do you know what I mean? I might never see like a jerk chicken just made in my yard that I can eat. I'm not seeing a Caribbean pea soup ever again.
It's true. You don't want Jamie Oliver's jerk rice.
Exactly.
Next
thing you know, do you know what I mean?
It's real, man. It might sound pernickety and it might sound so shallow, but it is an important background. That's an important thing.
Shallow,
a lot of people look up, bruv.
It's not shallow, bro. There are shallow opinions on why people won't date people from certain races. There are legitimate shallow opinions. Like, obviously, anyone can learn to cook anything, of course. However, there are levels to these bevels, people. Listen, there's a difference between going online and cooking and learning something from a recipe than your mum taught you how to make this when you were little.
Yeah.
Do you know the difference level of... First off, mummies add love to food every time they cook. I don't know whether or not recipes always do that.
You know what? That one
you
deserves...
get beat for eating early. It's just a different thing. It's a different thing. That's how I feel. But yeah, that's not... I don't think it's shallow to say that at all. Because really, if you end up wanting to date a white woman, you could go shop and get Caribbean food, bro. You can go to a yardie shop and get... Do you know what I mean? So like, it's
and you can teach her as well, isn't it? You can teach.
So I'm saying, yeah, exactly. It's all compromised, but you know, sometimes things are just early, or when it's like a Blue Peter thing. Yeah, it's a Blue Peter thing. Here's one I've made earlier. You already know how to make it. No issue.
I'm gonna bring up Steve the Madman. Whenever I have like conversations about interracial couples, I always bring up Steve the Madman in it. Obviously, he's very open about his relationships on Snapchat and Insta and that kind of thing. And obviously his wife is white, and he obviously openly mocks his wife's cooking, like openly. He'll be like, babe, what's it? He's like, babe, what's this? What is this chicken, babe?
Yeah, it's chicken.
He's like, salt and pepper, babe. I mean, and they've got enough love to have that conversation. Like, look, this chicken don't bang, beat. Like,
I do find with a lot of interracial relationships, they are able to have them conversations, which is just great. Yeah. Like, obviously, it's not really a cuss. It's just banter. Do you know what I mean? Like, like if you love someone, a lot of things just aren't gonna matter. If it's like really like I want to
seasoned chicken matters though. Seasoned chicken. Listen, any girl I've been with, I don't play around with food. Any of my exes that know me, I've had to teach them. Season is that is the first rule. You better wash that chicken first and foremost.
Bro, and season it. Shaq will vouch for me. I'm lucky. Nicole makes me great food, bro. Nicole
can cook, bro.
Bro.
I saw them updates on Instagram when you man were on tour. You guys enjoyed, you know. You know what I had on tour? Cheese and wine nights. That's what I had.
Alex.
Massive cheese and wine. They tried to make us something on them as well.
They bang now and again. They bang now and again, but not all the time, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And crackers with a little bit of pork there.
Yeah.
But not everyday sophisticated food, though.
Once a year.
Once a year. I'm dying.
Nah, shit.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Speaking of going off of Michael, he said, "You do you." What do you think in terms of? Because we're living in right now. We're in lockdown as well, so I know like it may not be exactly the case for you guys, but I know a lot of people who have been stuck in lockdown with their boyfriends and girlfriends, and it's just, you know, like when you're stuck with someone for too long and it just gets a bit too much, you just can't stand anything they do. Like, why the hell are you breathing here, man? Why are you breathing? Stop breathing. The way you're breathing is pissing me off. Like them little things. I think maybe advice for anyone who's stuck in lockdown in that situation.
Bro, my advice would go back to the first thing I said right at the start of this video. Be comfortable in being yourself. in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? Because even if you are living with that person 24/7, for example, during lockdown, if you guys have that kind of relationship and you're so comfortable in being yourselves, but you make each other work, there'll be no issue in saying, I'm going to go bang FIFA for a couple of hours, babe, while you watch Love Island. Or you go and FaceTime your girls while I go and work out in our backdoor gym or whatever. I'm going to go for a run. You can come for a run with me. I know you don't like running. Okay, cool. Why don't you order some lunch? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you ain't got to do together all the time.
Yeah.
So you have to just, like you said, find that compromise and the balance. Because
I think,
go on.
I think of as boys and boyfriends, I think for a lot of people, their head goes into a sense of like, I have to make sure that she's okay no matter what I'm doing. And they get it to a point where they feel this way so much that they forget about the things that they need and the things that, like, that time to yourself that is important as well. And I think it's awkward because I think a lot of guys feel like they'll be in a situation where I'm doing wrong by you, or you're going to think I'm doing wrong by you by taking the time for myself. And I think that I think the discussion between a guy and their girlfriend needs to be had in that situation. Do you know what I mean? When you're kind of, I think a lot of guys try not to bring up anything that's might cause an issue just because it's, do you know what I mean? It's a very male thing to do. This is why you don't get many boys going to therapy. Like, many black people in general don't really go to therapy. It's just like they kind of, a lot of boyfriends I've found from conversations with people I've had, and like even like past experiences with people that, like, if I have an issue with something, I tend to kind of just deal with it by myself. Like, for me, I'm always the problem solver, innit? So like, if someone's got a problem, they talk to me, I'll talk about it. But I've never gotten myself, I think it's because I never grew up in a situation where I felt like I could tell a mate about a problem and they'd have given me the advice. So by the time I'm 16 and my circle's changed a bit differently, like my circle's a bit tighter, then so that it's not even on the cards to have that kind of, it's not a thought that goes into my head. Do you know what I mean? So you get fast forward, I'm 20 years old. That's just it's not even like a consideration. It's just like, I'll deal with it. So I think like, to answer my own question, I guess I think it's just that openness, and also just being able to understand that you can't fix everything.
Look, I hear what you're saying about about the conversation needing to be had between boyfriend and girlfriend and whatnot. But I feel like that conversation would only need to be had if it hadn't been had earlier, before lockdown. I'm talking like in the beginning stages, innit? Like, if you're both on that level where, like, look, this is, I like, for example, I like playing FIFA, I like going out with the man them, I like playing football, I like exercising, I like so and so and so and so. And these are things that come with me and the person you're about to be with, you know what I'm saying? So if we're now, for example, in lockdown and whatnot, and I want to do these things, I don't expect you to potentially feel type of way about me going to do these things on my own, because this is where I was before I hadn't met you. Do you know what I'm saying? So if there is a bit of a thing there, obviously have a conversation, but I don't think there should really be any sort of, and it'll be the same for her. Like, if she's on whatever she's on and I'm not feeling that, I can't be like, oh, why didn't you want to spend time with me, man? Because you've been doing you before you met me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but sometimes it's not even a matter of, I know a lot of boyfriends don't think even like, it's not even a case of the girlfriend coming, oh, you don't talk to me. It's just the thought of the guy thinking she might come and have that conversation, and I don't want to have that conversation right now. So let me just make sure everything's okay. And like,
or kind of preempt it and kind of just act before it even happens.
Yeah, and I think the issue with doing that for the boys is you have to understand that if you're forcing yourself to do something in any situation, it will create animosity. No matter how you feel about that person, it will create this thing where, like, you're feeling pressured because you've put pressure on yourself, but then you've got issue with her because you've pressured yourself and not even had this conversation. So yeah, I think it's about just full on openness, especially in lockdown right now, because I know how hard it can be. Like, even like, not even just your partner, but sometimes like I live with my two mates, and even sometimes with them two, I want to be on my own. So it's not about, so yeah, I think a lot of guys think, oh, if I don't do this, she's going to think X, Y, Z. But sometimes, first off, girls are reasonable people 9 times out of 10, unless you piss them off and then all reason goes out the window. That they can be pretty reasonable if you have the conversation early. Like, if you're thinking you might have this feeling in 2 years' time, talk about it now.
Oh my days,
I think
man.
people need to remember that the individuals before they met, you're both individuals before you met. Then you come together, like you said, and as Michael said, in the talking stages, you have these conversations. I hear people say, "Oh, you know, it's too soon to be asking someone if they want kids. It's too soon to be." No, it's not, because
how can it be too soon?
you don't want to 5 years down the line they're with this person, then you now you get to that stage where you're like, okay, I actually want kids, or I want to get married, and then that person, I didn't ever want to get married. I don't want kids.
They were looking at you sideways like this, like, bro, like, no.
Exactly. You need to have these conversations early, so then you know whether you're going to pursue it or not. I don't get it, man.
On the flip side as well, I don't know if any of you man saw Serge Fabregas's tweet right at the start of lockdown. He was saying how, like, he's even been super grateful for lockdown, because as a footballer, you're not traveling all over the country every other game. You rarely see your family. And he said, this is the first time I've actually gotten to sit down with my partner and have that relationship for such a long time. And I was like, so maybe lockdown with your partners for people like footballers and athletes may actually be.
And people who are away a lot of the time.
Yeah, man.
It does make sense. What did Fred just say? Something just reminded me of something.
What was saying about
I said people were both individual and before they met, and I was also going on about what else I was even talking about now.
You said about someone potentially wanting to have a baby five years down the line.
You need to speak about that.
Speaking of early conversations, just advice for everybody, especially because this particular thing affects Black people. I think it's important as Black people to get your blood tested as soon as you can. Check what you have and what you don't have. Like, sickle cell is not a joke. So, like, when I didn't learn about sickle cell till I was I didn't properly learn about it. My family, my grandparents both carry the trait. I think two of my uncles have it. My mum and dad both carry the trait. So I carry a trait of having sickle cell. So if me and my girlfriend Emma, if she had a trace of, she just basically is a hereditary gene that you can either have it or, like, you can carry it. So I carry it. If Emma had also carried it, that gives our child a 50, I think it's even higher than 50, like a big chance of actually having full-blown sickle cell. So I think when you're looking into I'm not saying you have to do this, I'm just thinking, like, this is like, if you're thinking about having kids and marrying someone, these are kind of conversations to have as young Black adults with your partners, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't think I'm not sure if my parents even knew before me and my sister were born. Me and my sister both carry the trait. So, like, it was just out of luck that neither of us have sickle cell, because the odds were that we probably should have had full-blown sickle cell, both of us. So you just have to, I think it's just about, as you say, these are the conversations you have to have early on in the conversation, in the chatting stage. I think if you miss out a lot of them conversations, you kind of, you end up in a relationship where, like, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know this, but you signed the contract. You should have read the fine print. You know what I mean? You should have read the fine print or discussed it with your lawyers. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But now,
go on, Karen.
I think my cousin has sickle cell as well. Do you know what I'm saying? And, like, she's in and out of hospital whenever she's feeling well, and little things make her immune system a lot weaker and that kind of thing. And I remember my mum having the same conversation with me, like, you know, especially if you are going to date a Black girl or whatever, not that you should both get your blood checked, because not just sickle cell, but anemia as well, all that kind of thing, low iron.
Oh, iron, it's a common thing,
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things that are specific within the Black race that, and, like, you mean, I don't know about you guys, but in our kind of families, like, you only go doctor if you're sick, you only go dentist if your teeth hurt, you only go somewhere if something's wrong, you don't go get it checked before, innit? Where you gotta go get that checked and early, have that conversation, man.
We've got to change that. Obviously, being our generation, we've got to change that. You know, it's everything for us. You know what I mean? You can go online. There's so much research. You know what I mean? You can do all that. But I think
I just think it's a case of not thinking that your kids are learning everything they need to learn at school. Like, we've known it for years. So at this point, when our generation have kids, we have to get to a point where we go, okay, these are things we're gonna have to teach you from young, and just get in their minds to think about, like, I remember hearing about sickle cell my entire life, but I didn't know what it was until I watched Chucky Online on the Half Cast podcast with a man who had sickle cell, discussing what it was like to grow up with it. I had no clue that was what it was, but I knew that my two uncles had it, and I knew some other people in like the family had it, and but like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have to get to a point now where we understand that the educational system is not tailored to help us survive and thrive and kind of just be adults. So we as parents have to start doing that from day dot. Just let them know little things that they're not going to be taught unless they wake up one day and they've got pains and they got shooting, stabbing pains through their body. Then you have to go to a doctor and find out they got sickle cell. So, you know, it's
true.
It's just an educational thing.